Hello and welcome to the first video in a brand new series in which I will be discussing fan-made cards that I found on the Terraforming Mars subreddit. I will of course always link the original post and I will mention the person who made these cards. And then I will be reviewing these cards by strength and how fun I think they are. And I haven't looked at them too thoroughly, so I will read them out first and then I will give you my first impressions on them. And we will start off by cards made by Titan99. And the first card he made is Fishing Port. So it costs 24, pretty pricey. You can only play it at 2 degrees Celsius. This gives a building tag. It lets you place a tile. Looks like you can place this tile wherever you want. I would think that you have to place it. Ah yeah, okay. You can place it wherever you want. But if you place it next to oceans, then you will get a benefit for that. So you can accumulate animals on it, and for every animal you will get 1 point. And the action says add 1 animal to this card for every adjacent ocean to the fishing port tile. Okay, so the action is pretty strong. So if you place this next to 3 oceans, how I understand it, then every time you perform this action, you add 3 animals to this card, meaning that it's 3 points per gen. Of course, 2 degrees Celsius, that's as much as fish needs, which makes sense. And it's pretty late in the game. Let's say in a normal game, that's probably either the last or second to last gen. And even with perfect placement, this would be then 3 or 6 points. If you can place it next to 3 oceans, which is unlikely, I have to say, because placing next to 3 oceans is pretty nice and everybody wants to place their greeneries there. Of course, if you can combo this maybe with something like, what's it called? The ocean that you can freely place. You know what I mean, the steel ocean that you can freely place. Let me look it up. I should know that. Artificial lake, yeah, sure. If you can combo this with artificial lake, then you can probably more easily get this next to 3 oceans, and maybe even next to 4, which would be completely crazy. And it's definitely a really strong card if the game rushes up in temperature. And of course, it's also a building tag, and there aren't a lot of good point building tags for the late game. Normally something like Open City is something that you want to play. But other than that, good point scoring building tags are pretty rare. So I'd say it's useful in some scenarios and it can be absolutely broken if you can get this really early on. And maybe with Inventrix, or if you have like the other 2 cards that let you place these cards earlier. Or could be really cheeky and play this together with the prelude that lets you play a card for ignoring the global parameters, but of course that wouldn't be worth it. It's way too expensive, and there are no oceans down at the start of the game, so yeah, not that great. But it would be funny if you can combo this with like Great Aquifer or like Ice Asteroid on your starting hand. Then you could make a lot of points, but it would completely destroy your economy at the start of the game. So yeah, I think it's a fun card. Let's get to the next one. Okay, the next one is James Webb Telescope. Costs 19, so pretty pricey again. It has a space and a science tag. It requires 4 science tags. And the action is look at the top 3 cards, buy them all, or discard them. I actually remember this card. I didn't remember Fishing Port, but I remember this one because I think I commented on that one on the subreddit, because I think this card is really well designed. The thing is, looking at 3 cards and then choosing one of them or how many of them you want is really, really good. Think about invention contest or business contacts. These cards are really strong because you can look at multiple cards and then pick the one that you really want. Let's say you are looking for plant tag for NRA, or let's say that you are looking for a science tag to get AI Central down, or you're looking for Jovians because you're going for a Jovian multiplier. If you then can look at 3 or more cards and choose one of them, then the likelihood of getting the right card goes up. If you could do that with this one, you look at 3 cards and then either buy 1 or 2 or 3 or none of them, then this card would be absolutely broken because this would just be insane card draw. But having to buy all of them, that's really pricey. It costs 9 if you're playing Polyphemus or the other one that makes it cheaper, then of course not. But for a regular corp, it costs 9 MC. That's really pricey. And not buying them, well, then this card doesn't offer anything else. You don't get any points. You just get another science tag, which can be nice for like Marziu or to get to anti-gravity. But I think it's really well designed because it has an enormous upside. If all of these cards are good, then you get 3 cards, but you also have to pay for them. But if just one of them is good, you have to pay for all 3 of them to get that one. So I don't think this card is crazy strong. I think it's fun. It might even be a little bit weak, but as I said, it's really fun. And again, as with the first card, I think graphically and thematically, it's really well designed. So let's get to the next one. Okay, the third card is Space Market. It requires a city down. Actually, it requires that you have a city in play. Okay, I guess your Space Market needs to be at your city. Makes sense. It grants a building tag. It costs 12 MC. And you get 1 mega credit production for every plant tag and every animal tag that you have in play. Animal tags are really rare and really hard to get down in the early game. Plant tags are really valuable. Everybody likes plant tags, but that means they are fought over. It's unlikely that you will get like 4 or 5 plant tags down in the early game. Also, not only because they're fought over, but also because early game plant tags are usually not that great. Something like Lichen or Adapted Lichen, those are not too strong. And if you play plant tags in the mid to late game, when they are stronger, stuff like bushes, trees, kelp farming, then what are you doing with more money prod? It can be nice, especially this card could be really insane for banker. If you have, let's say, 6 plant tags and 1 or 2 animal tags, that can swing banker easily. So for that is pretty strong. And I think the city requirement, I would say in most cases where you would want to play this for the development, you would have a city in play already. I think, but it's pretty rare that you can get this down rather early on and still get good development out of it. So I think it's a rather weak card. But again, I think it's well designed. I think it's funny that it needs to be your city. It makes sense. Yeah, because it's your Space Market and it needs to be in your city. All right, let's get to the next one. So the fourth card here is Steel Magnate. Costs 18, grants a building tag, and gives you 3 steel prod. Okay, let's think about this. Mine, which is the most basic steel producer, grants 1 building tag for 7 in total and gives 1 steel prod. This costs 21 in total, so 3 times the price of mine, and it gives 3 times the prod. Problem is, if you play mine theoretically 3 times, then you also have 3 building tags, which in and of itself has some value. There is MATLAB and there's Builder and Contractor, so having 3 building tags is actually quite valuable. And also, I think it's really easy to overkill steel prod. If you have 3, 4, 5 steel prod, most of the building tags, as I said early on when I talked about Fishing Port, aren't too great in the late game. They are mostly early game to mid game cards, which give you production and a few points sometimes. But there aren't that many really good scoring cards. That's more the space tag thing, like stuff like Phobos Space Station, Terraforming Ganymede, Large Convoy, Imported Nitrogen. These are cards that you can play in the late game for Titanium, and they grant you a lot of points. There aren't a lot of these cards for Steel. As I said, there's Open City, and then there would be Fishing Port in this little promo expansion. But yeah, I think this card isn't too strong. Would I keep it on the opening hand? If I have card draw, then probably, because if I have card draw, I increase the likelihood that I will get more steel tags that I can play. But if I don't, then I would probably run out of building tags to play with all of the steel production. So yeah, let's get to the last card I think that Titan 99 made. That's the Whip Hand. It's made for the Thermal expansion. It requires that you are chairman. And then it costs 7. It's an event card, and you can place 3 delegates, but they have to be in 3 different parties. This is really, really good for, what's it called? Septem Tribus. Because with Septem Tribus, you need delegates in different parties. And it's an amazing card for them. But sadly not for the first gen, because it requires you to be chairman, and you're not chairman in the first gen. Other than that, I mean, you pay 10 to get 3 delegates, and let's say you place them strategically so that they are in the party that wins this gen, then the party that wins next gen, and then the party that wins the gen afterwards. In the mid game, that can sometimes be pretty easily predictable because there are neutral delegates placed in the different parties. Then this basically just gives you 3 influence spread out over 3 different gens, and that's actually pretty useful. And it can, of course, help you to win elections, but can also be pretty helpful because that grants you TR and gives you even more influence for the gen afterwards. And I think if you have maybe a small discount, draw this for free, or you have media group, then this is actually a really good card. Of course, it requires you to be chairman. And if you buy this in a draft and you don't have any discounts or rebates, then I think that the global events have to be really impactful for this to matter. But I think it's a well-designed card, again. And as I said, if you have some combo potential, this is pretty strong. Yeah, so let's get to the next set of cards. All right, the next set of cards is made by Brynney. Of course, all of these Redditors are linked in the description. I mean, their posts are linked in the description, so definitely check them out, leave them an upvote. Let's get to the next card. So this is Bioengineered Growth. Costs 11, requires 5 science tags, so the same amount of science tags as Mass Converter. Grants a science tag itself, grants a plant tag, so 2 of the best tags in the game. Really strong combo potential with these 2 tags. The effect is when you play a plant card, you pay 3 MC less for it. This is crazy strong. There aren't any discounts other than 1 card in the Thermal expansion, specifically for plant tags. So if you're going for a plant strategy, then this effect is really strong, especially because plant strategies often lack money. And then it also grants 2 plant production. This card is really strong if you can get it down, but there's a problem with it. Normally, science strats don't really focus that much on the green combo, on plants. If you get card draw down, you might draw into stuff like viral enhancers, decomposers, ecozone, kelp farming, herbivores, NRA, and so on. So that increases the likelihood, and science strats often include card draw. But normally science strats are more focused around space tags, because you have an increased likelihood of getting space discounts. You have an increased likelihood of drawing more Jovian multipliers and stuff. So often these, and of course, you want to go for a long game in a science strat, and long games favor the player that has the most engine, and that doesn't really work well together with the plant strat. But let's say you're going for science and you're drawing into some of these archetype cards for the green combo, as I said, viral enhancers, decomposers, ecozone. Then this card is absolutely busted. The problem is if it's the other way around, if you're drawing viral enhancers, ecozone decomposers without going for a science strat, then this card is absolutely useless for you because you can't get it down. But it also means that you probably have to cut it, because if your opponents who might be going for a science strat draw this, then they can get this down and probably get a better plant engine going than you. And that would be really, really difficult to handle then. So I think it might be a bit strong for a science strat. And I don't think that science needs even more strong cards. There are already a few really strong cards: AI Central, Mass Converter, AGT. But yeah, I still like it. I like science strats. I like plant strats. It's an interesting card. Might be a bit too strong. Let's get to the next one. Next one is Deep Space Network. Okay, this requires a city outside of Mars. So there are only 2 cities outside of Mars in the base game, Phobos Space Haven and Ganymede Colony. Then there are 4 cities outside of Mars in the Venus expansion. And then there's 1 promo card. Fastest Taurus, or what's it called? I need to look it up. Stanford Taurus, that's it. Okay. So there are actually, if you're playing with all expansions, only 7 cards that let you place a city outside of Mars. That's really, really niche. You're maybe seeing 1 or 2 of those during a game. Let's say you draw this early. Let's say you draw this with restricted area or something early on. And then you see Phobos Space Haven, and you play that. Then this card gives you 1 point, 3 money production. So basically it's the same as Phobos Space Haven, a science tag and a space tag. But it grants you only 1 point instead of 3 points that Phobos Space Haven gives you. And the thing is, Phobos Space Haven isn't even that strong of a card. You normally only play that if you have massive amounts of titanium prod, if you have massive amounts of space discounts, or last gen and you have like 10 titanium left over. This card is really only strong if you have 3 or more of these cities outside of Mars. But that's highly unlikely. When was the last time that you had like Dawn City, Ganymede Colony, and Phobos Space Haven all played? That is really unlikely. So I think this card is pretty weak. The science tag helps a bit, but it costs 26. It's way too expensive. Yeah, I think that's all about Deep Space Network. Let's get to the next one. The next one is Exported Metals. It costs 8, grants a building tag and an earth tag, decreases your money production by 1, and increases titanium and steel production by 1 each. So this is +4 in production, but you lose a bit of flexibility. I think it's still really strong. +4 for 8. And it's not like if this were power prod, then you had to get power prod down before playing this card, meaning that you have to pay for a power prod card. But you can decrease your MC prod below 0. You don't have to do anything to get your MC prod up first. So playing this first gen, I think, is a really, really good play. Also, the building tag, so it works towards builder. And it's an earth tag, and earth tags are also really useful for Director, if you have Earth Office, for Point Luna, Cartel. Earth tags are just also pretty useful. So I think this card, there's not a lot to say about it. I think it's just a really good early game production card. It's completely nuts if you have advanced alloys. And of course, in the mid to late game, it's rather useless. You could maybe play it like 2 or 3 gens before the end of the game if there's Miner in play. Miner's already funded and you want to contest that, then you can play it rather late. Especially if you have steel left over. But are you spending steel to get more prod for Miner? I don't know. But I think it's a really good early game production card. Let's get to the next one. And the next one is Hired Specialists. Okay, this looks interesting. I don't remember this one. Costs 9. and it just has one action. Pay 3 MC to play another card at its normal price. During this action, hired specialists will be considered to have any 2 tags of your choice. Ooh, okay, this is crazy good, I think. Okay, but it's pretty costly. So how this works is, let's say you have 1 science tag, then you play hired specialists, you pay 3 MC, and then you have 3 science tags, and you can play AI Central. So it's basically, yeah, it's compared to research network. Wait, not research coordination. Research coordination. Yeah, research coordination gives you 1 wild tag for 4 MC. This basically gives you 2 wild tags, but for the first use of it, it costs 12 plus buying the card 15. 15 for 2 wild tags, and then the next time you use it, it costs 3 again. Okay, I take it back. I think it's not that strong. The thing is, 2 wild tags are still quite influential. If you want to get anti-gravity down, you only need to get to 5 science tags. Then you play hired specialist and you can play it. That's pretty nuts if you can play that early. Or same with AI Central. But again, it's really costly. It's, wow, can be also quite strong for NRA, but NRA is really costly in on itself, and then paying for this as well. I don't know. It's a strong effect, but it's also really costly. I would need to play with this to know how strong it is. Problem is, it doesn't count for milestones. Yeah, it doesn't count for milestones, so that makes it a bit weaker, in my opinion. Yeah, I think I'd rather have research coordination than hired specialists in almost any case. I'd rather bank on drawing 1 more tag than playing this for like triple the cost. So yeah, again, pretty well designed. I think it's really interesting. And yeah, let's get to the next one. So the next one is marketing effort. Costs 13, grants 1 VP and 1 Earth tag. And you get 1 MC prod for every TR I gained this gen. Okay, this is maybe like 4 or 5 MC prod in a good gen, but the thing is you still have to pay for it. But I like the picture in it. Pretty nice. Marketing effort, and then it's just marketing for Terraforming Mars. That's pretty fun, pretty fun. The problem is, let's say you play a giant ice asteroid and then you get another greenery down because you converted on 2 oceans that give you plants. That's 5 TR, but it costs 36. Normally you don't want to play giant ice asteroid really early on because you pay a lot for the points and you get only meager development for it. You play it in mid game, let's say. Will you have 13 MC left over after that play to get marketing effort down? And will it be that impactful? I don't know. In certain situations, this can be really nice. Let's say you get a lot of heat prod and you maybe even have a bumper down. And then you get maybe 3 TR in Gen 3 and you play this and get 3 MC prod and a point on top of it. That could be nice. Again, it's also an Earth tag, so you could combo it with Cartel. It can be really strong for banker swing. I uploaded games on my channel where I made like 19 TR in the last gen. And let's say the last 2 TR I couldn't do because I need to play this one instead. Then 17 TR and then playing marketing effort, that easily wins you banker in and of its own. So for that, it's crazy. But yeah, I think for its normal use case, getting development in the early to mid game, it's not that strong. But yeah, it's again a really fun and well-designed card again. Let's get to the next card. And oh yeah, I remember this one because I have mixed feelings about this one. Nutrient Agar, an event card that also has a microbe tag on it. you are only allowed to have a maximum of 8 microbes on your cards, and it costs 5 MC to play. And it requires that you have 8 microbes or less. Double the number of microbes on a card that already has at least 1 microbe on it. So let's say you have 8 microbes on ants, which would be the absolute best case for this card. You have 8 microbes on ants and nothing else. Then Nutrient Agar grants you 4 points. And it's also an event card, so you can make it cheaper with Media Group. It has a microbe on it. I think you can choose whether you want to get the effect first or you want to trigger decomposers first. So you don't have to be careful with that if you want to double the microbes on decomposers. The thing is, there are only like 2 cards in the game, Venusian insects and ants, for which this is insane, point-wise, because the cards that let you convert microbes into oxygen or temperature bumps or Venus bumps, like regolith eaters, you will not have a lot of microbes on them. How? Like, maybe you put 1 microbe on it, and maybe you play imported hydrogen. Then you have 4 microbes on them. You play Nutrient Agar, and you have 8 microbes on them. Then you can use the action 4 gens in a row. That's pretty good. It's pretty good, but it's not like ants where you can double 8 microbes into 16 and make 4 points out of it. You just make 2 points out of it, which is already pretty strong, but it's the best case because how often can you combo GHG producing bacteria together with imported hydrogen? And if you use this on tardigrades, it's almost never worth it. If you have tardigrades with 8 microbes on it, that's 2 points. You double them, it's 2 points with Nutrient Agar for a card that costs 5. So 2 points for 8 in total. It's also an event card. Okay, I take it back. It's actually quite strong on tardigrades as well. The problem is, what happens if you have multiple cards with microbes on them? Because the maximum requirement counts all microbes. So let's say you have 3 different microbes cards with like 2 or 3 microbes on them each. Then you get maybe half a point or a point out of it, which can be okay if you draw this for free. Yeah. Another card on which this is probably really strong is Psychrophiles, because you can play Psychrophiles really early on. It's often the only microbe card that you play because it's just a good development card, and many of the other base game microbe cards are not that strong. And if you have 8 microbes on the Psychrophiles, which is pretty rare because you probably want to play plant tags before you have 8 microbes on Psychrophiles, but let's say you have 8 microbes on it, the Nutrient Agar grants you 8 more, so 16 more cash for 8 cash total investment, so plus 8. That's pretty good, but it's pretty rare that you can get that off. I think the best case scenarios for this card are really rare and really hard to get to, so I think it's not too overpowered, and often it's just quite useless. I think it's quite well designed. I like it. Is there another card in this set? Yeah, there is. Okay, Overtime. Costswell is an event card, and if you raise the global parameter during this generation, you may raise it again. Max once per parameter, so when playing this card, you can do this with multiple parameters, all 4 if you want to, but you will not raise your GR for doing so. So the use case for this card is pretty limited. It's either for ending the game or getting 1 or multiple cards out that require higher parameters, or for getting a bonus bump. So let's say you're 2 away from the bonus heat bump on the oxygen track, then you place the greenery and you play Overtime. Is that worth it? It's much worse than playing, let's say, Mining Expedition or Plantation, which cost around the same and also grant you that TR, because this one doesn't give you the TR, so no economic development and no point for you. You just claim the bonus bump. For ending the game, it can definitely be worth it. If you don't have enough cash to end the game, but you know that you will lose next gen because your opponent has a lot of cash and card draw and all the discounts and stuff, then overtime can straight up win you the game. So for that use case, it's really, really good. But then, of course, the Venus bump is pretty useless, except if you're playing with the rule that you also need to max out Venus. But I've never done that. I think it's pretty stupid. And the third use case, getting a card out that requires a higher parameter. For that, it's really, really bad. Because what's it called? Special design, I think it's called. Yeah, special design does the same thing, but better and much cheaper. So it's only worth it if you need to do multiple cards on different tracks with this, or on the same track, doesn't really matter. But then adaptation tech is better than overtime. So the use case for which this is best is ending the game. For this is quite nice, but yeah, pretty rare. I wouldn't say I would pick it up that often. If I'm going for a fast game and I draw this for free, I'd be pretty happy about it because it's like an insurance that I can end the game in some scenarios. So yeah. And let's get to the next card, Private Trading. Costs 17, requires that you have a colony. Has a space tag on it, decreases your mega credit production by 1, and then it grants an action. So let's look at the action. Pay 3 MC to trade with a colony at step 3. Yeah, this action does not use a trade fleet, trigger colony bonuses, or reset the colony marker. So, okay, of course, it's private trading. I guess you can do this even when somebody has already traded to the colony. And it does it always at step 3, right? Step 3. Step 3 is pretty weak. I'm looking at the colonies right now. I will show them on screen. Like for Ceres, that's 3 steel for 3 MC. So you basically get plus 3 MC. With Triton, it's not worth it, except if you're Phobolog or have like advanced alloys down. With Europa, it can be nice. You get a power prod for 3. But do you want to play such an expensive card for that? Luna, you get plus 1 MC. And the thing is, you don't trigger the colony bonuses. With Pluto, it can be pretty nice. You draw 2 cards for 3. Okay, that would be a use case for this card. Europa and Pluto, probably the best ones. Miranda, that's if you have a 1-point animal, that's just a point. It's also quite nice, but not that strong. Remember, would you play a security fleet? Probably not. So you wouldn't play this one as well. Also decreases your money prod. Okay, I don't think this card is that strong. Only thing that I would use it for probably is Pluto. And if Pluto is not in the game, I wouldn't play this. If Pluto is in the game and I played this, then you can also use it for other stuff situationally. If you don't need more cards, you can also use it for Europa, get a power prod and stuff. For that, it's okay. But otherwise, I wouldn't buy this. Okay. So this was the last card of this set. We only have 1 card left. It's been made by another creator. So let's get to that one. All right, the last card of today's video was made by oztea, again, linked in the description, and it's called Search for Fossils. Costs 5, grants a science tag. You can collect science resources on it, and you get 1 point for each science resource. And what do? You pay 1 MC, so it's like Search for Life. And after you place a tile on Mars, reveal and discard the top card. If it's a micro, plant, or animal tag, add 1 science tag. Okay, so you can't just do this 1 time each gen. You can do it multiple times each gen, and you can also accumulate multiple science resources on this card. Not like Search for Life, where you can do that, but you get only 3 points. Like if you have 2 resources on Search for Life, you still get only 3 points. With Search for Fossils, you can like have 5 resources on there and you will get 5 points. But you can't just do it. You activate it when you place the tile, then you have to pay 1 MC extra and reveal the top card. Okay, I actually like this card. It doesn't have a restriction, so you can play this early on if you're going for a ground strategy, a ground game strategy with Ecoline, for example. And Ecoline or Tharsis, or even if you place Oceans, you always reveal the top card. And if it's one of the green tags, then you get a point. It's quite nice. Think about Herbivores. With Herbivores, you pay 12. Of course, you can also decrease the plant prod of someone else, which is really valuable. But you basically get half a point for each greenery you place. With this card, you gamble, but if you hit, you get 1 point instead of half a point. And it doesn't only trigger when placing greeneries. Of course, you also need to pay 1 MC each time. But I still think I like this card. I would play it if I'm going for a ground strategy, and I would definitely deny it from people that go for ground strategies. And again, it's a pretty cheap science tag, not as cheap as Search for Life. But I would probably play it and use it. Yeah, it's quite nice. And the thing is, this is also really well designed because it's called Search for Fossils. Really close to Search for Life. It has a really similar effect, a really similar outcome, but it's distinctly different. I really like it. Really great card made by oztea. Okay, this was the last card of today's video. Let me know if you enjoyed this first episode of me reviewing and reacting to community-made cards. And if you did, please leave a like, consider subscribing, and let me know in the comments what you thought about these cards. And if many of you liked the video, then I will definitely make more of these. And yeah, see you in the next video.